Prague Spring in Czechoslovakia in 1968. So Czechoslovakia is another one of the satellite states, and life under communist rule was very difficult for the Czech people. The country was ruled by the Soviet Union or from the Soviet Union, and the secret police maintained control. As with other satellite states, the Czech economy was run for the benefit of the Soviet Union. People had few freedoms. Protests against these low standards of living and the lack of freedom grew over time. In 1968, Alexander Dubček was elected to the role of First Secretary of the Czech Communist Party, effectively head of government, and he was trusted by Moscow, by the Soviet Union, to make the government more effective but less unpopular, whilst also keeping the country loyal to the Soviet Union. So Dubček believed in communism, but he wanted to offer socialism with a human face, and therefore introduced a series of reforms that became known as the Prague Spring. This included a relaxation of censorship, more power to trade unions and regional governments, freedom to travel, and increased trade with the West. Dubček's reforms were popular with the Czech people, but not with Moscow. The new Soviet leader Brezhnev was worried that other Warsaw Pact countries would want reforms too. And this is where we get the Soviet reaction. On the 20th of August 1968, 500,000 Warsaw Pact troops invaded Czechoslovakia and ended the Prague Spring. Now, the invading force were told that they had been invited to help restore law and order, and they were therefore surprised that they were met with hostility. Dubček was arrested, sent to Moscow and ordered to reverse his reforms. He was then dismissed and replaced by the lower hardliner Gustav Husak. Now, the events of the Prague Spring have a lot of parallels with events in Hungary back in 1956. So you'll recall that in Hungary in 1956 there was an attempt to break away from Soviet rule and introduced reforms. And this was met with a swift, harsh response by the Soviet Union, in which 20,000 people died. The Prague Spring is also met by a reaction from the Soviet Union and sending in forces to stop these changes, but the big difference to the events in Hungary was that actually the Czechoslovakian government had promised to make these reforms but to retain communism. So they were looking at this idea of socialism with a human face. Nonetheless, these events do worry the leader of the Soviet Union, Brezhnev, and he issues what became known as the Brezhnev Doctrine on the 26th of September. This said that the actions of any individual communist country affected all communist countries, and therefore all should take steps to stop such action. So basically this prevented all communist countries from introducing reforms. So what was the impact of this? Well, it led to greater Soviet control of Warsaw Pact members. It also led to criticism of the Soviet invasion from Yugoslavia and Romania, who were two communist countries, and just like with events in Hungary in 1956, it provoked outrage in the USA and others, but no direct action. So I think it's important to note the parallels between these two, and you might want to check back on my video about the Hungarian Uprising of 1956 to summarise these things for yourself. Thank you.